Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the new Now Agora. I'm delighted to have Iam Saums with us here. He's going to be joining us over the course of our coming many months, let's say, in sharing what he has created through his years as an author and an artist and a conscious creator of many delicious and beautiful articles on courage, creativity, and above all, freedom. Iam, welcome so much to the new Now Agora. We're delighted to have you here.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo, for the opportunity as always.
So perhaps you can tell our viewers a bit about what you'll be bringing to the table, what you've done, what you may be looking to do over the next little while, and just a bit of a background on what you like sharing and how you came to be living the kind of life you are.
For the last 10 or more years, I have been writing articles under the name Iam Saums. It's not my given name, it's my pen name. My full name is William, but I've been going by Iam since it was some nickname that was given to me by friends in the fourth grade school per our previous conversation. And I go by the last name Saums. That was my maternal grandfather. And he was a very unique and genuine person. I guess let's say a very authentic person in the world and did a lot of good things. So I was inspired by him. So I thought I would use that name as a part of my name and my lineage to honor him. I've also been writing music for a little over 30 years, I believe. I write many different styles of genres, specifically blues, bluegrass, jazz, improv, folk, reggae, lots of different styles, improv. And a lot of the content or the subject matter of the lyrics, it has to do with social consciousness. It has to do with awareness. It has to do with awakening. It has to do with making a difference in the world. I've also been quite involved in several different communities. I guess, for lack of a better word, spiritual communities, and some I serve in a leadership role. So I've been a part of that spiritual kind of community. Community is a better word than spiritual, let's just say that. So I've been a community leader for probably about as long as I've been playing music. And I've also attempted to the best of my ability, figure out a way for myself personally to not just talk about these things, but really apply and implement them and walk the talk, for lack of a better phrase, which is one of the names of the songs that I've written recently. So beyond that, I mean, I just try and stay related as much as possible with people, more so than I ever thought I would throughout the course of my life. I think human beings have a tendency of somewhat being isolative, especially over the last year and a half, where we've experienced a lot of isolation and social distancing, quote unquote, or whatever. But I've also attempted to the best of my ability, really be present to the universe, to the source of all things, and to connect with that energy in such a way that, and it's taken a long time, many years of being able to acclimate to that experience of being aligned with the universe, to be able to experience that energy on a universal level, or as to the best of my abilities, being whatever capacity of consciousness that I can find or maintain, which is a good way to put it, in a way to be able to express that energy, that insight, that empowerment, or that creativity and imagination to the best of my ability, and manifest it in my life and hopefully make a difference in the lives of others.
And that's a fantastic way of putting it. When I dreamed of starting our new Now Agora, where I could bring a whole bunch of interesting people together to interact with our viewers, it was to help, let's say, explore the practicalities of becoming free, practicalities of getting over your challenges and making a beautiful community. Like you say, walk the talk. And it's what I have always envisioned for people like yourself and some of the other lovely creators that are going to be joining us, in that our viewers will get a chance to ask some questions, see what you've done, see what works, what hasn't worked, and perhaps put that into play in their own lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, I've also got the good fortune of having found, my soulmate in many ways in my wife, and how she has very unique and inspirational and sometimes comical ways of being able to bring me back down to earth.
Mm.
She's a very powerful grounding force for me in many different ways, and we walk a lot of the same paths together side by side, in the best way we can to support each other as we explore, discover, and attempt to manifest to the best of our ability.
I mean, I think that's an amazing point you've just brought up, and it's something that sat with me my whole life. I spent a lot of time wanting to be with a special partner, so to speak, to be with a lady, to have to go, having gone through the nonsense of what gets passed along from TV and movies as to what a relationship's about, to having found, I would say in a similar way, my wife that helps ground me and is comically aware of the realities of life, and allowing, I guess, through her femininity to allow me to become a better man, and sharing what community requires, I guess, of leaders, I would say, towards being happy, healthy, free, to keep the monsters at bay, to be abundant, to be a leader in strength. I would think, and it's something that I've always appreciated from your writing, and the few times that we've chatted, is the quiet inner strength you seem to have in what you share and why you're sharing it. And I would say it's a man's job in a way to go, this far and no further, as far as allowing what should be in your family, in your community, in your life, and also helping others to understand how they can stand up and help themselves to keep themselves, I would say, safe from the fears that do seem to overwhelm a lot of people these days.
Absolutely. And I feel like in my experience, specifically with my wife and our relationship, I think we're going on almost 20 years now, which is kind of hard to believe, but I think, time is really relative when you have a relationship that is based on a multi-dimensional level where there's a lot of different experiences, many of them being very diverse from the ordinary humdrum ball and chain kind of scenario. So for me, the thing that I've learned, man to man, the thing that I've learned in my experience is that you, like you said earlier, you really need to be able to be present to your feminine side, to find that balance as a man, to be able to really get into that listen and that awareness and that consciousness of finding that balance between the masculine and the feminine, so that when you relate with the feminine, however that shows up at any given time for the woman in the relationship, then it's a lot more fluent than if you are one of those guys that's very adamant about masculinity and hunting or killing or watching football or drinking beer. Like, nothing's wrong with any of those things, but like when you take an exodus over time of development and evolution as a human male from the feminine, and if you become exiled from the feminine, then the relatedness that you will have with your wife or significant other, or females in general, women in general, is going to be very limited. It's going to be very, very unfulfilling, and you're never going to be able to find in yourself what you would hope to find in the other person.
This conversation has gone in a different direction than I thought, but it's extremely important from what you've mentioned, I find, to be able to build your masculinity in relation to the femininity, in relation to what a man can bring in their strength, directly related to what a woman brings in her strength. And I think it's why perhaps the gender roles have been so attacked over the last little while, is if you do have a direct, strong relationship with the women in your society, and they have a direct, strong relationship with the men, your community becomes sacrosanct, I would say, and inviolable, in that the beauty of what needs to be created for your family, for your relationships, for the people, your friends, and your intimate relationships, really grounds itself in spiritual strength, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. And then the fears, don't get, let's say, a fertile ground to grow in, because, basically you have a community of fullness. So I
Sure.
appreciate what you've shared in that way, and it's something that I think would be very useful to explore in our coming New Now Agora. Relationships, maleness, femaleness, and beyond what gets shared on TV and movies and things like that, which is obviously surface nonsense for the most part. In getting deep into what is possible.
Sure. Yeah, I think the spectrum of experience and awareness, when you find that balance within yourself between the masculine and the feminine, and what that creates beyond the duality of the two, really helps to be able to connect you to something, or connect us to something that's much more transcendent than what is out there. And I mean, I can recall going back, years, even in my relationship with my wife now, when it used to be like I was the masculine, she was the feminine, and it was so rigid in structure in hindsight now that I see it than it is now, because it's more, there's a fluency to it. There's like, when it moves in this direction, we move in this direction more often than not together. And when it moves in another direction, then we more often than not move in that direction as well. So I think it benefits both people, and eventually it probably makes a great difference energetically and otherwise in the world.
I would agree. I think there's a reason that there's feminine and masculine on the planet. I think there's a reason that it's attacked. I think there's a reason that they try and put a wedge between what is definitely something that should be a relationship of communication and cooperation, as opposed to what gets pushed as a battle for superiority, which is obviously not how things are meant to be, I would say, on the planet, and things how are meant to be spiritually. I mean, I am for our viewers, what is something that or what are some of the projects you may be working on for the near future that maybe we'll get to share with them?
Currently, I'm working on a new article, and the article is a lot about, it was actually, some of it was inspired by our last conversation, in regards to acknowledging and claiming and expressing and manifesting our personal power into the world, especially now, which is one of the subject matters that we talked about in our last conversation. Because I think that that's like one of the main starting points for a lot of us right now, being able to not only identify and clarify, or even see that it's possible that we can reclaim our power, but how do we be able to intimate ourselves to that power so that we can express it to the best of our ability. I'm also writing 3 or 4 new songs, and I'm going to, at the behest of Elva, who's always pushing me to put it out on video, I'm probably going to record them on video in light of the circumstances of how things are going on in the world, with there not being a lot of concerts or performances that are happening currently. And I also have a CD that I recorded. I've recorded several CDs in my life, but I did a CD probably about 3 years ago called Lakshmi that I'll be able to have available either through digitally or otherwise, but most likely nowadays it's all digital anyway. And aside from that, we're getting ready for trips and things of that nature. But I've also been considering the possibility of writing something a little longer, and I don't know what the subject matter would be. I'm trying to focus more so on subject matter when I write that nobody's talking about. And I'm trying to personalize it as much as possible so that actually is not this broadband kind of expression of this is what's right, this is what's wrong, this is, it just seems to me that there's a lot of duality even in specifically in the mainstream media, obviously, because that's the main marketplace and broadcasting for duality and two-dimensional existence and three-dimensional life, or a construct or whatever. But I've also been attempting to really focus in and hone on as succinctly as possible, writing about things that people can relate to in their own experience as a human being, in the interest of building community, in the interest of not from a standpoint of one leader and many different people that are kind of following along with the message or the intention or the insights, but to be able to encourage and inspire people to lead themselves in the ways that is unique in and of themselves with their connection with the universe and with their connection with their heart. Briefly going back to what you were talking about with the balance between the masculine and the feminine in any human being. And sometimes there's a masculine overload for women. We've seen that as well, and otherwise. But to be able to find that balance in oneself as a human being gives them the opportunity of being able to make that connection with the universe and also ultimately connect with the energy from the source and to be able to express it in a balanced way so that it makes the greatest difference, but it also enhances the experience that they would have as well.
I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head, so to speak. The beauty of what's possible in this life by bringing out your own inner resources, by bringing out your own inner spirit, by leading yourself towards what you need to create, and then by sharing that in your community and inspiring others to do the same is pretty much, in my opinion, the way to get over the current nonsense of any slavery that's pushed at you, in that, you're not looking outside yourself for any resources or any direction or any rules or any validation, but you're looking at the loving people in your life, whether it's your wife or your best friend or your brother or your buddy or the the person across the road who's making community with you. And from there, you find all the rules I think that you need and require to make a life that's happy, healthy, and free, for lack of a better way to put it.
For sure. Yeah, and I think everybody in that experiences humanity in society or community or whatever, I mean, deep down inside, they want to have a fulfilling life. It's a lot of the times I think they don't have a fulfilling life because they don't believe it's possible, or they don't believe that it's necessary, or they don't believe that it even exists, to the extent. And so, finding like we were talking about earlier, finding the masculine and the feminine balance, talking about earlier, the communication, the level of communication, the level of listening, the level of understanding, the level of acceptance, and the level of insight that will shift and help to transform and transcend not only the perception, but the experience of humanity.
I would agree. I would agree fully. I mean, if there's anything that we get to share with people, that's the beautiful way of what's possible in a definite definition of the new now Agora. It's how to make your own you now, how to make a fulfilling life, how to make a loving life. Not by I'm right and you're wrong, but just by example of what's worked for me. And perhaps, if you see something in that works for you, that's great. And maybe someone else will have something to offer that I haven't thought about or you haven't thought about. And, it's pretty much the direct reason that we are doing our new now Agora, so that we can open these lines of communication and share with each other and see how we can build a better life together.
Absolutely.
All right, maybe we can leave it here. It gives our readers a bit of an interesting perspective to begin chewing on, so to speak. I will definitely leave some links below from what Iam has done and what he's going to do. I would love for him to share more of his music as it's ready. We'll make it available to our viewers. Please let us know once you've released those videos and your CDs or your digital music. I would be delighted to share and listen and offer it up. And perhaps that is something that will alleviate everyone's blues these days, is to hear some beautiful heartfelt music that's beyond trying to be commercial, but it's more of a cathartic movement of what has helped.
Absolutely.
All right, Iam.
Thank you for the opportunity, Lorenzo.
For sure. Thanks so much for joining us. If anybody has any questions or suggestions or recommendations for myself or Iam, please let us know. I'll pass the notes along. Please like and subscribe to this video and join our email list if you haven't. We will be sending out information as to when we're going to go live. I will allow our viewers to communicate and participate that way. And Iam, thanks so much for joining us. I hope to talk with you again very, very soon. And keep an eye out here, folks. We're going to do a longer one not so long from now as well.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
Hey, ain't going back, not gonna buy into all that. Hey, ain't gonna hide, gonna let all the fears slide. Oh, Mother Nature is on my side.